Yeah.
0% chance.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And then speaking of that, there's sometimes you just get older, then you just realize things about yourself. When we were talking about Russell Wilson, and then sometimes you get older and then you realize, oh, I know how some people would say the NFL is rigged. Like talking about maintaining yourselves, talking about still being consistent, not really falling off, but like just seeing how the narratives change around a given person and two given people, and that's Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. So this is probably one of the biggest weird trades for like two guys who are both really, really solid guys. Like you're happy if they're your franchise leaders. And then it was when Jared Goff was in LA, Jared Goff was the worst quarterback. Everything was Jared Goff's fault, apparently. Todd Gurley's knees were Jared Goff's fault because he couldn't throw, so he ran Todd Gurley's knees into the dust. And then that Super Bowl was their fault, even though Tom Brady also had a bad Super Bowl. And then Sean Payton, the GM, kind of trashed Jared Goff. Flip him for Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford for 1 year is the golden boy. And then everyone's like, well, how much does his legacy really matter? Talking about Matthew Stafford. And then people kind of hop off the Rams bandwagon when there are definitely some media driving that Super Bowl. They want it for LA. And then suddenly now, after Colin Cowherd gets Jared Goff and the rest of the West Coast media banished out of LA, they realize, oh, maybe he actually is good. Like, duh, he was the number 1 pick in the draft. Maybe he actually can throw. Maybe he actually is really good. So he was going over a tier and Jared Goff was put in tier 3. He's like, that's so disrespectful. What Jared Goff does is he shows up every day. He's a leader. And just because he's not mobile in the modern NFL, well, Tom Brady wasn't mobile, but Jared Goff can move from side to side. So we go from Jared Goff's the worst to tier 3 is disrespectful. Tom Brady wasn't mobile, so And then I look, I'm like, wait a minute, who's opening night for the season? Who are they hyping up this year? It's like the Lions, who got Hard Knocks and was like one of the most hyped up teams last year. Dan Campbell, everyone said he was a kook, and suddenly he's charming now that it works. Okay, now I hop on the bandwagon, even though we've been here the whole time. So it's like,
true.
You want to talk about multi-layer storyline building in the NFL from like the trade happening to all the way the Lions are now starting against the Chiefs on opening night, and the NFL is gambling on that. They don't just give you the opening night matchup to anyone, and it's rarely a NFC AFC matchup. So what's the NFL telling us?
I think what they're saying is that the Lions are going to make the NFC title game.
Yes.
And like you talk about the Jared Goff and Matt Stafford trade. Well, that trade occurred 3 years ago.
Yep.
4 years ago. I think 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And since then, that next season, the Lions were 3-13, had a really tough season. First season under Dan Campbell. And then the Rams obviously went on, won the Super Bowl. Okay. From year 1, Rams won the trade. They won the Super Bowl. But since then, what has happened to the Rams? Matt Stafford's elbow. Question whether he'll play again. Meanwhile, the Lions, who are one of the most losingest franchises in NFL history, they got 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick and Jared Goff from it. Last year, they started off the season slow. They were just right at the door of the playoffs, but just barely missed it due to, seeding and tiebreakers and shit like that.
No, due to Baker Mayfield not beating the Seahawks. That's why they lost.
And then, so now we look at the trade package now. They got Jared Goff. They got Jameson Williams. We'll see how he is in week 7. They got Jahmyr Gibbs this season, which they also flipped to get Sam Laporta, who we talked about in training camp. He's looking pretty good. So, and then never mind the fact that they got defensive back Milanu and then Josh Pascal as well. We'll see how those guys pan out.
Yeah, CJ.
At this point, if the Lions can make it to the NFC title game, I think they can potentially, even more so if they win the Super Bowl. The Lions definitely won this trade.